It's your weekly breakaway for fun conversations on pro cycling and so much more. Join us as we go beyond the slipstream. I'm Matt Harper, and together with my brother Justin, we'll do deep-ish dives on bike races, movies, bands, and all manner of shiny pop cultural objects. Oh, and did I mention bike races? We're kind of obsessed. Allez!
Hello and welcome to Beyond the Slipstream. I'm Matt and this is my brother Justin, and today in our first two segments we'll be digging into all of the stage racing action from the men's Tour of Poland and Tour de l'Ain. In segment 3, we will, with a tear in our eye, review the third and final season to Netflix's pro cycling related show Tour de France Unchained. And no Beyond the Slipstream podcast would be complete without a ride in the Broom Wagon. Allez. Please note, this segment will contain spoilers. The 82nd edition of the Tour of Poland was an action-packed good time this year, with some exciting sprinting, some great classic-style stages, a stage that felt like a crit race with several laps of a short little city circuit, and a final individual time trial that came right down to the wire. Following on the heels of the biggest win of his career the day before, and it should be noted, the first ever UCI World Tour win by a monegasque, that's the word for a person from Monaco, Victor Langelotti, a journeyman rider from Ineos Grenadiers, held 7 seconds over the hard-as-nails American diesel engine from UAE Team Emirates' Brandon McNulty. And he gave Ineos a much-needed leader's jersey in a stage race. But unfortunately for Ineos, their time in the lead would be short-lived. And unfortunately for the 30-year-old Langelotti, Brandon McNulty is one of the top TT specialists in the modern pro peloton, meaning the monegasque really had no hope of somehow hanging on to his GC lead. McNulty took the stage win and the GC as well, keeping the UAE onslaught of the 2025 season rolling right along. Justin, another onslaught of sorts continued in the race as well. Matthew Brennan's onslaught of the 2025 season, where he's made good use of the one tiny area of pro cycling that UAE is not totally dominant over, sprinting. Let's start there.
I mean, what more can be said about this kid than the fact that, you know, he has 11 wins right now. He is sitting, you know, right by Tim Merlier, you know, for sprinting wins on the season. And I think we'd both agree that Tim Merlier is the best sprinter in the pro peloton. So, you know, this kid is amazing. He seems to have just the biggest engine I've ever seen. I want to see this kid against some real competition. I think we all agree that, you know, Olaf Koi's time at Visma is probably marked at this point, although he is amazing too. All right. His stage one win was, you know, and stage one demonstrates like that the two of them can work together as well, because yes. I got to give props to Matty Brennan. He's got a hell of a lot more wins than Olaf Koi, but he was right there leading him out, doing his duty for his team. And let's also not forget that man just turned 20. Yes.
20. And he's got as many wins as Tim Merlier. And well, we're not going to kid ourselves. Tim Merlier has much bigger wins, and as it should be. You know, it's a function of the races that Visma has sent Matthew Brennan to, but he has been so unbelievably strong in those, you know, second tier races that he's been winning. I mean, a win in one of those races is still a great big UCI win.
Yes, absolutely.
And my man's got 11 of them.
So, you know, Koi has a remarkable lead out and looks just strong. You know what I mean? The whole end of that stage was, you know, crazy. Now, obviously, I wonder. I don't know. I don't know where Visma's head's at as far as this is considered. You know what I mean? I think it's interesting, you know, bringing both of them, you know, they both end up getting stage wins, which I'm sure we'll get to here in a minute, but I don't know. I wonder what is going on in that team with this part of it. You know what I mean? There's so much focus on Jonas and the GC stuff and what's going on this. You know what I mean? That part to me is the most interesting. Is like, well, what is going on day to day with these two, superstars, in my opinion.
Let's on air production meeting right here. Let's have a conversation about like sort of where Visma is at in our next team bus segment, because I would like to get into that as well. I want to stick to this race,
Okay.
but what immediately leaps to mind for me is that Visma is a team that is kind of good at managing a lot of different fronts of approaches to bike racing, and part of that is a function of them being one of the bigger teams and very well funded and very well staffed and cutting edge and all of that kind of stuff. So that's also kind of why UAE can do it. But it's a great conversation that I would love to get into, especially on the heels of not only Matty Brennan's performance, but some of his other teammates in other races, as we'll be getting into later on. So so let's do that. But I wanted to mention from that stage one sprint, the Mattis Mikkels thing with the guy from EF, like losing his foot, and then he's struggling to get the foot back in. Of course, the pedals are still turning, but being clipped in and being not clipped in, they look a lot alike, but they're not alike. And
no, because he can't put the full pressure down if he's not clipped in.
Right. And I mean, everybody's going so fast. He kind of swerves a little bit as he's trying to get it in. His teammate reaches out and gives him like a little push, like, yo, bro, stay up right here. And then like, as he's trying to get it back in again, he almost takes out the very same teammate who was just helping him. I did want to also mention something that I noticed here that was went throughout the entire race, which is the Tour of Poland's inflatables game. Did you notice these inflatables they have at this thing? They're like these giant, like kind of mushroom shaped things. They're about like 12 feet tall, and they have those things lining like
everywhere.
Every part of that race that's like has any significance whatsoever. I mean, there's 100 of them at the finish area. They go over the top of a mountain. There's 6 of them sitting there. They're everywhere. Anyways, so at stage 2, we saw Paul Lapera take just a badass win off of everybody. This was a great finish, I believe, where like you had 5 different dudes appearing to maybe be making the move that was going to win the thing in like short succession, right?
Well, and then it looked like it was going to come down to Jan Christian and Finn Fisher Black, and then all of a sudden Lapera comes just out of nowhere and just decimates them in the like with like a very small amount, like 100 meters to go or something like that.
Yes.
And like an amount that you wouldn't think someone would be able to get it, but because the finish was like so uphill and draggy that it was really hard for them to maintain the momentum that they had. And all of a sudden, because he had waited to the right moment to make that move, he had a lot more in the tank in those last 100 meters, and he just blew right past him. And it was a really good win by him.
Yes, and in that regard, this finish is very Willunga-esque. And I believe I heard one of the commentators mention that, because it's like it's just so tricky. You have got to get the timing right.
Yeah.
And if you rewind a little bit, at first you had what would become a theme throughout this race, which was Kwiato bringing up
Ben Turner.
Well, this time he had Sheffield, but later in the race it was Ben Turner. And they got up on the front with K to go and really looked like, holy crap, are they doing this? Like it was almost looking like, they're destroying everybody. I guess I wasn't really thinking at that moment about what lay ahead in that final kilometer, because they were looking super strong. I was like, wow, like Ineos is about to get a killer win here. And then Kwiato swings off thinking he's launching Sheffield. But no, neither of them realized that. Like, boom,
all of a sudden,
come through there.
UAE was there.
Yes, it was Jan Christian, and then there's Finn Fisher Black, and Lapera is like lurking behind them, and so now it's shifted to Christian and Finn Fisher Black looking like, oh, okay, this is the race. All right, cool. Let's settle in and watch these guys duke it out. At that same time, at the moment, we're thinking that LaPera is back there, kind of making his way past,
Yeah,
past Sheffield.
he's just been getting dragged up with zero energy, and once he gets to the again, it's that the timing aspect of it that made it such a nice win for him is that he just waited and waited and waited and let everybody else make their move, and then
Yeah, well, I was 100% convinced Christian was going to win it.
100%.
After like Christian kind of got the jump on Finn Fisher Black. I'm like, oh, now, okay, this is it. This is the thing that's happening. And then suddenly you're like, wait a second. LaPera's smoking everybody in this thing? How did that happen?
I want to see Finn Fisher Black like really come into his own, man. I'd love to see him, win something like this.
Yeah, he's on the come up. Definitely would love to see that. Stage 3, Ineos got their revenge for stage 2 with another I believe it was another awesome lead out from Quieto to give Ben Turner stage win. What did I want to mention here? LaPera went down in a crash in the beginning of the stage, and as it turned out, broke a rib, but was still racing on Thursday, the next day, and still holding the leader's jersey. Brennan gets totally boxed in the sprint finish, and Ineos gets paid off for 2 days of hard work with the Ben Turner win.
Yes.
Thoughts?
The wreck is pretty crazy that he continued on racing. He went down with Rafael Micah in a ditch, and I'm surprised that he was able to continue on. Glad to see Ineos get a win. I always I like Ben Turner. I think he's been looking better and better and better throughout as the season has gone on.
Do you get a vibe from Matty Brennan like that? I don't know. It seems like sometimes he just like gives up. Like if like he's not in the position, it's just like he's just like I'm done with this. But I don't know. Maybe that's a part of sprinting. Like if you're reading a race as well as that guy reads a race, and we've talked about how well he reads a race. If you're reading that finish and you realize, I mean, does there come a critical moment where you're like, oh, there's no way I win this race. I'm not even going to waste any more energy.
I think that it probably plays more into the energy fact than anything else. It's probably a safety thing too. I don't know. I would figure if you know you're not going to win, okay, why would you put yourself into danger? If you go back to stage 1, when he pulled off the sprint with Olav Koy, he ended up getting sanctioned for his. He did I think it was Gaviria or somebody was involved, but whatever. I think those moments are so dicey for these guys that there probably is some amount of like, why am I going to put myself into danger or risk putting other people into danger if there's no chance that I'm going to win? He's completely boxed out in this situation. So where does it make sense for him to try to make him, another effort into trying to win when you know that there's not really a chance that it's going to happen? I don't know.
Yeah, I have found myself I on a couple of occasions watching sprints that he was involved in, like sort of being like, dude, what are you doing, man? Like what? Like can you get into it? But you can't really say that, man. We just discussed he's got 11 wins, so something makes me think that.
And another point that you said, he's 20.
And he's not a very demonstrative guy too. Like he came across the finish line when he got his win, and he was just like, just like, yeah. I guess he kind of sat up a little bit, but yeah. Well, next day we saw Paul Manier from Soudal Quickstep get the jump on everybody as well. No Coy and no Brennan involved in this finish at all. it was Cueto and Turner again, and it's kind of like Manier just like got a perfect jump on him and was just really really fast, and like uh, Turner was coming and coming and coming, but he couldn't even close to more than what
No, I
couple
mean,
couple of bike lengths.
Paul Manier's done this a few times this season. I mean, this guy's he's definitely a good rider. Um, and this is where he's obviously on a team where stage wins are not a plenty for the lower level guys. So he's been mopping up wins in some of these smaller races throughout the year, and he's a good rider and he deserves it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's definitely been a bright
Especially
spot for
being
Quick
on the
Step.
team that he's on.
Yeah, been a very bright spot for that team. This was the stage that I mentioned in the intro was like a crit. Um, it was like a 4.2K circuit, and they did it like four times to the finish, and it was just cool. Like it was like a tight city course, and there was just like people everywhere. Almost the entirety of the thing was like in barriered out and everything like that, and it was just super cool. Another thing I noticed, Tour of Poland infamously is the tour that where Groenewegen, pushed Jakobsen through that barrier, and he had that almost career-ending injury, and blah blah blah. And Groenewegen was uh, made had to sit out a year or whatever, um, suspended. I don't know if you were paying attention to the infrastructure on the sprint stages, but they have these barriers that they're using that are just like completely badass. If you happen to notice them now, like
I didn't.
they 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 basically have sort of, I don't know, I'm guessing it's very hard thick plastic, but they have your angled barrier, the
Hmm.
like wood barrier or whatever the material is, but down at the bottom where the gap would be, there's like this rounded piece of plastic that looks like it's just like locked in there, and then they've got that same kind of piece of plastic over the top edge of it, so it's like this really heavy duty like plastic over the barriers, like nothing's getting caught up on
Yeah,
anything, and
I
it just
got you.
it stays exactly like that all the way through the finish line, you know what I mean?
Now I really want to go back and look at it
Yeah,
because
it's
I didn't notice it.
I was noticing that. But this also, I had to mention about Manier's win here. Um, First of all, they got the finish line camera in this race. I don't know if you noticed it. That side on shot of the finish line when they're showing the replays, they they uh, they show the guy winning and it stops. Like you see it come in and then it stops, and you see him at the finish line, and then it rolls forward and you see the next guy to come through, or the next two or three, and whenever like the next one crosses, it stops. So it gives you like a it's like snapshots. I don't know if you've
Right.
noticed that, but it's super cool, which is pretty impressive for Tour of Poland, like nice little piece of technology. And then Manier comes across, and did you catch this where he was like this? He did this thing.
The T-Rex thing.
Yeah, the T-Rex thing.
Yeah, because
I
they had
loved it.
the T-Rex sponsorship that they've done this like once or twice I think this year so far, where they wear that T-Rex sponsorship shirt in the
And
race.
as I learned, that T-Rex is a subsidiary of Sudal, and Sudal is like a floor coverings company. So
Yeah, yeah.
it's like some floor covering product or whatever that they're
Yeah, yeah.
advertising
It's
with.
same company. I think that's how they can get away with it because I don't think that it's like considered to be a variated jersey because they are still
Right.
the sponsor,
Yeah. 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 That's
which is
interesting.
which I'm sure is that's I'm sure that's some sweetheart UCI wink wink. Oh yeah, we're not you can advertise whatever you want on there. I'm sure that it's that way.
Right. Right. All right. So, stage five, Maddie Brennan's win. Talk me through that one.
Um, he he was way back and just comes out of nowhere, and I mean he had like 300 meters to go or something like that, and he got just way out in front of everybody and just hung on and hung on. Ben Turner, tried in vain, but it was like the seas departed and he was gone.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Um, that sprint went on and on and on. I felt like he he basically had to hold that lead for about 300 meters, and just did. He's a little rocket ship. He's so low over the bars, and incredible. Uh,
Kid's got engine for days, man.
4 days.
It's that's why he's won 11 times this year. Is that if he gets going, he blows past everybody. But I'm just harking back to what you said earlier. I wonder if age plays a factor in his resilience. You know what I mean? Like when you're as good as he is in the positions where he is, when you don't get it, is it a resilience? Maybe it's like, oh, man, it's a tough it's tough to like get into the mind of a racer to say like, why do you do this versus that in this situation? Because there are so many factors, because it's age, it's an experience, it's what I mean. Would a Jasper Phillipson do the same things in that? Would Benny and Girmay do the same thing in that situation? So it's just interesting. That's why I say I'd really like to see this guy race against some heavier competition. You know what I mean?
That's what I'm sitting here thinking. There is no way that a guy who gets double digit stage wins in any season ever, that guy doesn't go to Grand Tours the next year. You know what I'm saying? There's no chance. So Matthew Brennan will be going to Grand Tours next year, and I think Matthew Brennan will get a Grand Tour stage win next year.
I think that is
I will make that call.
Very good chance. On the team bus, I actually like charted out some of like the wins, just like a little side note, like statistical data on teams and individual riders and wins and stuff, because of Matty Brennan is the reason why I did it, because I think it's interesting where he falls in the list, like who he is involved in the discussion of most wins for the year. This young 20-year-old kid, he's in that discussion with some big names, and so I think it'll be interesting to look at that. But we can do that more on the team bus.
For sure. Another like really awesome win on stage 6. Basically, Brandon McNulty, who's been sort of very quiet throughout this race, but definitely has total aspirations for a strong GC finish here. He just realizes that he's not really going to be able to do anything to affect that until the very late stages of the race. But on stage 6, his team sets it up. Rafael Micah, Jan Christian put on a hard pace to set up McNulty, and McNulty gets a launch off the front, this kind of climby uphill finish. Taberi, Riccatello hanging with him for a while, but he wants to go long, makes a huge move with under a kilometer to go, gets this huge lead, and he is like way ahead of everybody with 1K to go. There was Riccatello and Taberi are sort of disappearing behind him. They're the closest, and then much further behind them is the bunch. So with like 1,000 kilometers, or with 1,000 meters to go, this other group containing Victor Langelotti is easily over 100 meters back, and it's looking like McNulty is so good to go. It's like, oh wow, he just crushed this thing. And suddenly, with like 450 meters to go, way the F back there, you see Langelotti starting to kind of pull away from that group, and he is just coming. And I think McNulty was kind of shocked. Like, I think McNulty, in McNulty's head, he was like, oh cool, my finish line is at like 75 meters to go, because I've already got this thing whooped. Those guys are so far back there. Good. I'm going to be able to settle down. And he starts to let the lactic acid out of his legs and kind of gives a look back, and then it's kind of like, oh no,
Yeah.
oh no, what did I just do? Because when Langolotti comes past him, it's like he doesn't even try. He already knows.
Yeah.
I'm not. It was so impressive.
Another thing on this stage, Colby Simmons,
Quinn's
little brother, looking really good for EF. Let's see. McNulty also. One of the key things in this stage that McNulty did that was really, really smart, he grabbed extra time early on in the intermediate sprint. All right. So what I will say about Brandon McNulty in this race, because it's like he's very quietly in this race. It's very interesting. These guys that are winning these races in these very subtle ways. You know what I mean? We've seen it in multiple ways with João Almeida. We saw it with
Yates.
All right. We saw it with
Pauline Ferrand-Prévot.
Yes, PFP. Thank you. You're like in my head. Thank you. So, but what you have to say about Brandon McNulty is his racing acumen, his IQ is super high. Good job on him, because he does have a big engine to be able to do that in the same stage where he's going to try to go for the win. Now it's sad that he didn't keep the gas on. I think that's really what happened to him. I don't know if he got gassed or if it was just that he felt like he had it in the bag and he just took his hand off, hand off the throttle. I don't know. I don't know what he exactly did there, and it could be a combination of that versus Langolotti just being on super form and just right guy, right day, right legs. But
exactly, that's something else I wanted to just discuss, is like Victor Langolotti. I didn't know this guy existed.
Okay. But you know what? Good on him. That's
exactly
what bike racing's all about, man. Like, it made it very, very interesting in that sense. You know what I'm saying? Like, all of a sudden, I love it when the unexpected happens. It's one of the great things about racing, because we get a lot of expected, especially right now. So when something unexpected happens, I'm all for it.
Couldn't agree more. Although, as we'll see in the next stage, kind of what was expected happened in the end, because UAE won another freaking race. Anyways, but we like Brandon McNulty, so we're not going to dwell on that.
It's an American winning a race. We'll take it.
And getting a stage win. It was like he gets his stage win as well. It was like the same thing with when Ben Turner got his. It was like, oh, we missed out the day before Sheffield, but then Ben Turner got it for the team. We missed out yesterday for Brandon, but today Brandon gets it. Oh, and gets the GC win as well, kind of with authority.
And I think that they really played this one correct. I think they knew exactly. And I've said this before about UAE in a win earlier this year, that they executed their plan to perfection. And I think this was exactly what I think going into the seventh stage where they were was exactly where they wanted to be, because I think that they knew that time trial suited Brandon McNulty, and that, with his engine, and if he's on form, that's where they can win this race. Like, they don't need to win it anywhere else. They could win it right there. And I feel like they executed that to perfection, because, again, he was smart. He was picking up bonus time. He was, putting time in on his other, GC rivals where he could do it. But knowing that you're going to have a time trial finish, positioning yourself to where, if you have a really good day that day, bam, GC win. And that's what I feel like UAE does so well, is they're very tactical in that sense.
They do what they have to do. That's for sure. Well, 3 cheers for Brandon McNulty from the good old US of A, who takes the stage win. We're going to leave it there, and we will be back in just a minute. Please note, this segment will contain spoilers. The Tour de l'Ain is a 3-day stage race named for the département of France where the race is held, as well as the river that runs through the region. This year's edition was a delight for fans of this Melissa bike who have been eagerly waiting for the promising young Belgian Kian Utebrooks to make good on the potential that he's been showing since joining the team at the beginning of last season. He came tantalizingly close to securing his first ever World Tour win on stage 2, but the lightly climby profile of the race meant that Decathlon's Nico Prudhomme, in the midst of a very good season himself, still had plenty of kick left for the two-up sprint against Utebrooks at the finish. Nico let it out, and Kian was unable to come around. But stage 3 was much steeper, and on the climb of the Grand Colombier, the traditional featured climb of the modern era of the race, after a terrific setup from his young teammate Ben Tullett, Utebrooks got away, stayed away, and ran away with not only an authoritative stage win, but the overall GC win as well. Justin, it's been a long time coming. Just how pumped are you for Kian's big moment?
This is a guy that I, excuse me, that I was looking at, a year, 2 years ago, going like, this is one of your rising stars on this team, and he's, virtually been non-existent, since my, thoughts on that. When looking into it, other than San Sebastian, he hasn't raced since April. I don't know why. I didn't look deeper into it, but I did find it interesting that he hadn't raced basically all year. But when I see him climb, I get those like Sepp Kuss vibes, and I just wonder, like, why are they not utilizing him with the Grand Tour riders? Is he just not there in the the development? Has he just not been there this year? But I am so glad to see this kid get the wins that he got, because to me, he is well deserved. He's been there, and I think that this is just the beginning for the Belgian. I really do.
Yeah, I would like to know why he has not raced. He didn't race basically from the beginning of April until August. What, you have no idea what happened there?
I don't know. I don't know if there was a wreck or if
Back,
it's just been...
back injury. A quick glance at his Wikipedia says that Utebrooks missed most of the 2025 season due to injury. First to back injury, and then injuries related to being hit by a car. We have our answer.
There you go.
So good on him. Hit by a car in 2025, wins a stage race in 2025. Not too shabby. Yeah, I was super happy for him, and let's just put my favorite thing about the whole thing right up front: his victory celebration. Let's just talk about how perfect this is. It is his first ever UCI win, like World Tour level win. So that's huge. For any rider, their first World Tour win is a huge thing. He's also a guy that's been showing a lot of promise, as we said in the intro, and we've been waiting for this big win. Secondly, he's wearing a leader's jersey when he gets that win. So he's already in a leader's jersey, the young rider's jersey. He wins with authority. So he gets a solo breakaway win with so much time in the bag. It's over. Not even funny. Which means that he gets to roll across the line, throw his leg over the saddle, get off the bike, pick up the bike, hold it aloft. I mean, he gets he can do whatever he wants. First ever win. Oh, and then the coup de grace, and it's to take the GC on the final day of the race. So it really doesn't get much better than that for a first time stage win. I'd like to see the first time winner who's had a better first time win than that. Let's say in the past 10 years. We'll go back and take a look, perhaps. I'd like to know.
This year, definitely the best one.
I mean,
we've seen a lot. We've seen a lot of first wins, in the last 12 months.
Yeah,
so,
and you don't always get it if you're a sprinter. Your first win is a sprint win, and it looks like any other win. But this guy got to
right. He got to really put it in.
And once again, also, and then the other thing about this is, like with a couple of the wins that we talked about in the Tour of Poland, just missed out the day before gets his reward the next day. The same thing, like with Brandon McNulty, and then with Ineos getting the win with Turner. So,
Well, let's break it down because I do want to talk about stage two a little bit more, but stage one, Tom Donworth wins, biggest win in his career. I don't even know who this guy is, like, at
again,
all.
another guy. He's like the guy from Ineos that won in the last race. Who is this guy?
Yeah.
Tom Donovan?
So great teamwork by Groupama in this. All right, like they really just worked this stage to completion in really great fashion. So I went and looked to see like what before this, like what he's done. He was third on GC in the Tour of Britain last year, and he was second on a stage of this race last year as well. So he's obviously been hovering around a win, and so it was nice to see him get something out of all of that effort.
Yeah, and he seems like a sweet kid based
Yeah,
on his
absolutely.
interview. And Gadu doing the lead out, like I never picked David Gadu as like a guy that'd be like leading out a dude on a sprint, and they took a 1-2 as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
I mean,
sir.
he let him out, but
As I said, it was just great teamwork on Groupama's part. Man, they really looked good the whole day.
and then the next day we saw like light years before the finish of the next stage how their fortunes had turned with Donworth crashing.
Yes.
Didn't crash out, but he crashed hard, and Gadu like dropped before anything even happened. Gadu was off the back, so and he was in the green. He was wearing the honorary green jersey that day since it was a 1-2 on the stage before, and yeah, kind of funny how that flip flop for FPJ. But then that's when basically the race came down to a 2-man battle over the next 2 days, which was Prudhomme v Uterbrooks.
Well, and let's talk about Prudhomme. Just another, this guy's been cleaning up on these, second and third tier races this year. I mean, this guy is been in the mix in a lot of these positions. Okay. And he and Uterbrooks worked so well together on this. I honestly, you kind of can't fault either of them for the win because they worked as well as two riders can work together to not let the group get to them and to stay away. And Prudhomme just looked so strong when he launched at like 200 meters or whatever it was. Gets the win, grabs the GC, good on him. It was a great stage for those two.
Absolutely. It was like like I said in the intro, not quite as steep on that stage, so he knew that was where he was going to have to make his biggest move. But I mean, if you look at his results, he basically was for either first or second in not only the last two stages, but also in 3 of the Jersey classifications, because while he ended up second on GC and second on mountains, he won the points classification. So basically a stage win, a stage second, Jersey win, 2 Jersey seconds. Pretty strong right across the board. That guy, I'm trying to remember what else it was that we saw him win earlier this year.
It's been multiple things.
Yeah, he took a stage and the GC of the Ruta Occitanie.
Yes, that was just a few weeks ago.
He won a stage of the Giro.
Yeah.
This guy's slaying. He won a stage of the Tour of the Alps. Yeah, wow.
He's had a good year,
but he didn't beat Kian Uterbrooks in the Tour de l'Ain.
I don't. But again, I don't think that it suited. I don't think that it suited him, especially on stage 3.
No, not at all.
This is the thing about Utebrooks that makes me wonder about, what's going on. And you're right. You know what? We will talk more about this when we do the team bus. We'll do a little dive on Visma, because this is another situation where, like, and maybe we can get into it too in the next segment when we talk about the Tour de France Unchained and the disparity between these teams. And I've used the term embarrassment of riches with UAE and Visma, and they have all of these different toys in their toy box. Here's another one that is obviously still in development. Obviously had if you get hit by a car, that's going to derail your season. But I think it'll be interesting to see how these guys rework things now that there's going to be a different focus with Remco. Like, his team focus is going to get a little different. Obviously Tadej Pogačar is so dominant. Visma is going to, how does you, because the landscape's going to change. Visma's losing some of their big domestiques. Where does he fit into that puzzle? Because this is a kid that can really, really climb when it gets steep, and I really think that the sky is the limit for him, and he fits in with this mode of what this team will need to win a Tour de France again. All right.
Yeah, I mean, I think he needs to become. I think the best case scenario for that team in terms of the prospect with this rider, number one, for him to remain injury free.
Mm-hmm.
But the focus, I would think, would be developing him into a very strong mountain domestique. There's no way you can look at him right now and be able to predict, like, will this guy be a Grand Tour contender in the future? Maybe not. I mean, you couldn't say either way. But what you could say right now is there's only one way to find out, and that's to send him to a Grand Tour, and in a domestique role, hopefully, like domestiquing for Jonas Vingegaard, and there'll be room in that department on this team with the departure of Benoot. All right, Benoot's leaving, so there's gonna be room for mountain domestiques, and also at one of the other races, not just the Tour. Assuming Jonas just does Tour, or maybe Jonas ends up doing Giro Tour next year or something. Who knows? But there with Jonas, but also getting an opportunity to be a GC leader in smaller stage races.
Yeah, no, I really do. Look, there's no reason he can't be an Isaac Del Toro. All right. There's no reason that he can't be a Zhao or a Juan Ayuso. I mean,
I would put him more like a Joao Almeida.
But he needs seasoning. He needs races. He needs the opportunity to be able to do that. But I think the talent is there. All right, and I really, it will be interesting to see, because I look at them and say, it's like, man, Jonas and Matteo and Sepp and Yates and this kid. All right, like, and then you get a Vic Campenarts in there, and who knows how you round out those other two spots, but like. Because look, that's what it's going to take to be able to wrangle in UAE. Wout van Aert,
yeah. God, that's just in any other world except a world where Tadej Pogačar is sitting atop the other just super team. Like that just seems unbeatable.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's
crazy. Well, we'll get into that more.
Yeah.
I was happy to see that not only did Jan Utebrooks get a big win for Visma, but his teammate Ben Tullett put in some really, really, really good work in this race on both of those stages.
He's another one,
and especially on helping him to set him up for his win. I mean, basically, he launched. It was him and Kian versus Prudhomme at the foot of the Colombier, and Tullett softened him up, and then boom, Kian rode away. Tullett, meanwhile, manages to hang in there and beats out like somebody, I can't remember who it was. He beats out somebody to take third on the stage, and he also got third on the GC. So you had a Visma 1-3 on the stage and the GC, which was pretty cool as well.
Yeah.
A little Ben Tullett. Well, short little race, but it's got some set up to be pretty exciting. I thought this edition was pretty exciting. Thrilled to see Uta Brooks take his first win, and we're going to be talking more about him in the team bus later on this week. We'll leave it there, and we'll be right back.
Don't miss the Team Bus, our weekly companion podcast to the main Beyond the Slipstream show. Our domestique, if you will, dropping every Wednesday in your usual podcast feed.
To the disappointment of many fans of professional cycling, Netflix announced last February that this year's season of Tour de France Unchained, its annual docuseries following professional cycling's biggest event, the Tour de France, will not be continuing after season 3 this year. Of course, there are plenty of cycling fans who are pretty critical of the show, but I am not one of them, and I don't think you are either. So let's start by discussing our thoughts about the show overall, its pros, cons, and cultural importance over its 3-season run, and then we can touch on this year's third and final season as well. Justin, what will you miss most about the show?
The production value. I think that I think it's so interesting how much access that they had to the race. Just like with all reality television too, I get enamored with the fact that they get so much footage that they can create a narrative that, at will, as far as what they, how they want to present the data, the all this data that they've, collected. So, and then I also think it's interesting too, how they collect all of this data, then they put it together, then they get the interview with the interviews with the pundits, and I don't know, man, the production value is so damn good on it that it's just, it just grips you. You just get locked in when you're watching it, and it's just like they just go from punch to punch to punch to punch, and you're just completely engrossed in it as it goes.
Yeah, I think for a deep pro cycling fan like you and I are, it's more, or at least for me, maybe I'm just speaking for myself, but there's no real suspense in any of it. It's a race that happened last year that, we've already analyzed out the ass. What I really just like is for me, it just presents a nice little nostalgia, box of chocolates. Just each one of them is just so sweet and delicious and so well put together, and you just get to relive all of these really great moments. I mean, I multiple times throughout watching this last season, I had tears come into my eyes, which is so happy just getting to remember oh, this is so nice. And at the same time, they do give some good backstories that sort of make your memories even fonder. You're like, oh, I remember that stage, that was great. And then you actually learn about what's his name, the guy that won the gravel stage. Remember that one? Anthony Turgis. And they had his brothers in there, and you got that whole family story. I mean, that was the one that had me definitely the most choked up. That was episode 4, The Road to Hell, because you learn this whole backstory about how Anthony Turgis is one of 3 cycling brothers. They're all very close in age. They all raced in many races together as younger riders, and then one of them got some kind of heart situation, and the other one got some kind of injury or something like that. So neither of them cycle anymore. So now the entirety of the weight of the family's top level cycling ambitions are thrown on Anthony Turgis. And not only that, but there's a gravel stage coming up, which is one of his specialties. So he's got all this extra expectation dumped on top of him, and to see him go out there and actually win that stage, I mean, that was spectacular. Did I know that when I was watching the stage last season? I did not. So that was really, really, really nice.
That's what makes it good, is that they are highlighting a moment. By far, my favorite of all of the episodes was the sprinter one with Cavendish, and they essentially they highlight it in that episode. They highlight Phillipson and Girmay and Cavendish because those are the three big sprinting stories of the year. But then two, and I think in a great way, they know their audience. It seems like because they have the Vingago episode, where they essentially, really, really, lay out they have the Vingago Pogacar story kind of laced throughout, the 8 episodes, but he gets that one episode, I think it's 5, the comeback, where it really focuses on him and what he went through and what the injury was, and then you get.
I want to go back to the sprinting stage, though.
Okay, well,
that ties to another point that I want to make about the previous thing.
Okay, well, hold on. I just want to say, and then you get the Pogacar, then so you have the Jonas episode, and you have the Pogacar episode. I like the way that they are highlighting the different aspects of the race in different ways. You get smaller team this, and each of these episodes has their own feel about a specific part of what makes the Tour de France so great. But yeah, now we can individually break down some of those things. But
no, let me make this point, man.
Sure.
I'm going to forget this. I think what the show, when the show is really good, it's when the story itself is good. And so take a look at the stage I mentioned, the Anthony Turgis stage, and the stage you mentioned, the Mark Cavendish stage. Those are compelling stories in and of themselves, right? And so the show is allowing what actually happened to do the heavy lifting. Where it's not as good, I think, where you can really see the writers of the show working really hard is in the Pogacar Jonas story, because he ran away with the freaking race. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he just dominated the entire thing. And so they got to work really, really hard to make it compelling. And so you get that Jonas stage, and it's good that they got the kind of access that they got, because they can't really lean on the story. If you notice, a lot of the like sort of race coverage doesn't even start until halfway through the episode or something. Correct. Because they gotta give you all that family stuff and all the talks with the team guys and stuff, because the racing just, the compelling is not there on the road.
But I think that's what they do. I think that's what they do really well. So, when you look at the Jonas episode, what you get, and I think this is really cool too. Jonas is won, obviously won two Tour de France's. That's an amazing feat. But he's not like Pogacar in the sense where he wins all these stages. So giving us this amazing backstory and then highlighting him beating Pogacar in a heads-up sprint, especially in a race that Pogacar is dominating, all right, that's awesome. Like, they do a really good job of making that awesome. What I think is cool about how they did this season versus the other ones is because the racing kind of is like meh as far as the GC is concerned, they do a really good job of really essentially just negating it throughout the whole thing. They do a great job of, like, each day, like stage 1, they set up that GC, they set it up. They do the stage with like Primoz and Remco, and they do a little bit there, but then it basically doesn't come back into play until the Jonas episode, and then it goes away again until the last episode. And the last episode is essentially just an ode to the king of the race, and
especially towards the end,
right? And I like the fact that they did it that way, because you should pay respect to how dominant he was. But it's also great that they gave us 7 episodes that weren't about Pogacar dominating the race. That's the
for sure. Like, and thank goodness for that. I have to say that I sort of also liked how they wove in a lot of the sort of reality of professional cycling about the money.
Yes,
and if you notice from right off the bat, you've got Orla Chenoweth sitting there like talking about how big money is changing the sporting landscape, um, and
Well,
and then leading right into that is episode one, this episode about smaller teams. I liked how it sort of started with like small teams and this sort of this struggle, this sort of lifelong kind of struggle of small teams in professional cycling.
right.
It's a nice grounding.
Archaea B&B having a $16 million budget, and UAE having a $60 million budget. You know what I mean? They're doing the same thing. You know what I mean?
And
Like,
and in this last episode, I think, or maybe the second to last, one of the last two episodes, it all comes back around to that in a very kind of sad, poignant way. When the guy from Decathlon, after um, what's his name, Ben the Irishman sprinter
Ben
on their
O'Connor.
team. No, Ben the Irishman sprinter on their team. Um, and also Felix Gall like just can't come good. Like Gall is like sitting in 11th and is trying to make the top 10 and instead drops to 14th like at the second to last stage.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
then Ben the other Irish guy, the Irish sprinter. Anyways, he's trying in the earlier episode, you see him trying to go out there and win stages and sort of make a comeback, and it just doesn't happen for him. He ends up leaving after stage 7 or something like that. Meanwhile, Felix Gall was trying to make things happen, but it wasn't happening for Felix Gall after he got a stage win like a year or two before that. And then later on down the road, you see Gall like just not do it. And so sort of, they sort of unflinchingly look at some of the darker sides of the racing as well. And the guy gets fired, the guy who founded the team, the founder of the team, who's no longer the CEO. He's just kind of working for the team that he founded. And Felix Gall doesn't get it done and they fire him. And like, boom, right there. I was like, damn, that is harsh.
And I think it's crazy too how sometimes the rider they're highlighting doesn't win, and so you do get a taste of that thing that Matty Mahoric said 2 years ago, that it's just like it's such a hard thing, that it's so sad that everybody can't win, and it's like, man, getting a taste. They do a good job of giving you a taste of how defeating that is. That it's like I said, that it's that production quality that really to me drives the narrative. I loved all the stuff with Carapace and his mom and like that statue in his yard. Did you see that?
No, I think the statue is like somewhere else. I don't think that's in his yard.
I think that's right outside of his mom's house. Is the way.
Or maybe it's on the road. So with people coming driving by, I feel like it's like in a public spot.
Yeah.
But that actually raises another point that I wanted to make, which is, I think in a couple of ways the show sort of like buries some information that I would have thought would have been cool to get out there, but maybe it's done. And this gets to another point I want to talk about. So am I not mistaken? Did Carapaz won the polka dot jersey that year, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that is not mentioned at all. Even though they do an entire episode about Richard Carapaz, the entire focus is about him finally getting a Tour de France stage win. Also, I believe that didn't that put him in the club in the Triple Crown Club or whatever for stage wins in all 3 Grand Tours? I believe it did. Maybe I'm mistaken, but I thought it did.
Did he not get the triple in the Giro this past year? Is that what you're thinking? No,
because I think this was his first Tour de France stage win, wasn't it? I don't know. We'll have to look into that. But
it's hard because it's a year ago. You're getting it.
I know. But anyways, they did not mention that he won the King of the Mountains jersey, which like to me is kind of as big as the stage win story. But
and they, by the way, they named the episode King of the Mountain.
Exactly. So I wonder that if that's something that just kind of ended up on the cutting room floor, and they're just like, is this too much information to try to cram into this like limited amount of time we have for all of these episodes? It makes me wonder, and I sort of felt like they did that as well earlier on with one of the other stages, shoot, what was there was another example of that where I was like, wait, but why aren't they talking about this other thing that's going on now? I can't think of it.
Well,
Um,
to look, one of my biggest things that I wasn't happy about in the first season of this show was how they didn't highlight one of the best moments in sports history, as far as I'm concerned. As far as showing a shining example of true sportsmanship, and that was that moment that Pogacar and Jonas had the year that he first won the Tour.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
and like, how do you leave that moment on the cutting room floor? And like, I guess
Mhm.
it's just how it is, man. Like, you're creating a narrative. Look at the first episode,
I
where
wonder if
they.
it's not a rights thing. I wonder if it's not a rights thing where like ASO is like, if you want that particular piece of footage, it's going to be an extra $1 million.
I wonder.
No,
It's interesting,
probably not. But
but here's the thing. So they're obviously making choices. You know what I mean? They make the choice in the first episode to highlight UAE versus Archaea BNB, and you're seeing like these guys that are like, oh, this is so hard and we're struggling, and then on the opposite side, you've got UAE in a Arab Emirates skyscraper going,
like
with his teammate going, everything the light touches is Tade's kingdom. You know what I mean?
yes,
And it's
yes.
like, it's like, again, what I said earlier, they're doing the exact same thing. But it's completely different. These guys are showing up in Range Rovers and Lamborghinis and all this other. They're wearing $300,000 watches while they're doing a bike race.
Yeah,
You
they
know
did
what I
not
mean?
shy
Like,
away from showing the wealth of some of these riders too. We
yeah,
also, let's not forget, we got to see Pidcock's garage full of Porsches in his like four-wheel like thing. We got to see Vanderpool like rolling up in his like
yeah, and it's
ridiculous.
Murcielago. Yeah.
Is that what was that?
It's like a Lamborghini, Aventador or Murcielago or something.
Right. You got to see Remco rolling around in his like souped up SUV with his like smoking hot supermodel of a girlfriend. Like,
Right. So they're definitely creating the narrative, but then again, too, it's I don't know. It's as cycling starts to evolve into this current world. Do should there be some sort of cap on these things? You know what I mean?
yeah.
Should there be a limit to how much money you can spend? Like, when does it? I don't know. It's an interesting it's an interesting road to be explored at some point. But
I know I can't stand the sports washing of these incredibly misogynistic Arab, quasi authoritarian cultures. It kind of annoys the heck out of me. I can't stand the live golf thing. I can't stand like it. Just I don't like it. I don't. I'm perfectly fine if Arabs want to participate in pro cycling or whatever. But sports washing is a real thing, and I kind of hate it. And I try to sort of keep it in back of mind when watching these things because I like Tadej Pogacar. I like Adam Yates, and I like Juan Ayuso, and I like all those guys. You know what I mean? Brandon McNulty. I love those riders. Those guys are going out there and they're just trying to do the best they can in their sport. But to me, there's always like an ominous darkness lurking behind some of these teams and some of these institutions. So I don't know. I think
here,
that is kind of used to great effect in this docu
here's
series.
here's well, here's something that I know that the UCI will never hear this, but here's something they should consider. If a team put a cap in place that says no team can spend over $40 million. However, if you want to spend over $40 million, you have to essentially donate matching funds that will be dispersed against the lowest the lowest ranking teams in the top 18 the pro the pro UCI level, and that those, if you want to spend $60 million and you're 20 million over the budget, well, you're going to put 20 million in the pool that's going to get dispersed against the, to the teams that are all, below this amount. Like if their total team budget is under 20 million, you get the qualification to get funds dispersed to you.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea. It would be good if the playing field could be leveled better, but I guess that's a bigger discussion for another time. Let's put a pin on this one. I'm sad to see the show go. It was enjoyable. I don't know how many new fans of the sport it was creating, and I don't think that has anything to do with the decision to cancel it.
I did meet one. So when the tour was on, I had a customer that said literally, "Oh my gosh, I love that show." It's crazy. So it did reach people.
So, but man, it sure would have been cool to see the Netflix treatment of Wout van Aert's win on through Montmartre this year, but we didn't get to see that. C'est la vie. Rest in peace. I guess it'll be always sitting out there on Netflix for you to go and watch if you want to. We'll leave it there, and we will be back with a ride in the Broom Wagon. Stay tuned. All right, we're back. We are taking a ride in the Broom Wagon. Justin, talk to me.
Okay, so obviously you've been on vacation and we haven't really talked in a while. So I wanted to catch you up on just this little homeowner win that I had while you were away. So if you remember, I just got a new roof. And we had hail damage and, had to go through the process of getting a new roof, which is on. This week, then I had the electrical thing, okay, like a week ago. And then this week's, trials and tribulations in home ownership was the people came to do the gutters for the new roof and got everything put, on. So I had a gutter in the front of my house that for a while has been kind of just putting water in an odd place, but there was nothing I could really do about it. But it really wasn't bothering anything. It was just going into a flower bed and so whatever. So I didn't bother with it. And once the storm happened and I knew I was getting a new roof and new gutters, I was like, oh, sweet. This will get fixed and I won't have to worry about it anymore. And it'll go back into this drain where it's supposed to, the water's going to go back in this drain where it's supposed to go, and I'll be good. So they come, they put the gutters on, and that night, 11:30, we get a thunderstorm. So my son John goes out, and he's looking at the gutters and seeing that everything's working properly except for this one gutter, the exact one that I was just referencing. So they have replaced the gutter into the drain, but now during this storm, it's backing up and bubbling over, all right, and it's putting water into this different spot, and I have John go down and check the basement. Sure enough, I'm getting water in my basement as well. So I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me. Fix one thing, another thing breaks. So I'm like, can't do anything about it tonight. We'll deal with it tomorrow. So next day, I have to go to work, of course, because it happens on my day off that the rain comes, and so I have to go to work early the next day, so I can't really do anything about it. I have John get the auger out and run it through the drain, like the hand auger, and nothing. They run some water on the roof. The drain's blocked up, but I can't get it out with the conventional means that I have. So I start to do some research and how do I clear this drain? By the way, this drain goes all the way under my driveway. Okay, so it's like from one end to the other.
How long would you say the drain is?
35 feet. All right.
Yeah, so you need a long snake.
PVC. Yeah, I have like a 20-foot auger. It's not gonna do it. So I start researching on how do you clean a drain pipe like this, and so it comes down to essentially the most efficient method is to use a pressure washer, a tool which I don't have. I've borrowed one over the years for different
Neither
things.
do I, dude. I want one bad.
Okay, so here's the thing, right? So I start to do the research on the pressure washer. So I figure I've got three options. I can borrow a pressure washer, but if I borrow the pressure washer, it's very likely not to have what I need, which is called a jet stream, which is, most power washers have like the gun on it, like, with the stick. All right. I need a pressure washer that's like a hose. All right.
Yeah.
So you would need to buy a thing called a jet stream, which is like, a 50-foot hose that you plug into the front. And on the end of it, it's got like a bit that's got, that shoots water in multiple directions. All right. So you get that, you run that in, you turn it on, it flushes the pipe out. All right. Cleans the walls and, gets the water flowing, all that. So if I borrow one, I'm going to be in for $100 to buy this thing for a thing that's not mine. That makes absolutely no sense to me. So now I'm looking at buying a pressure washer. So do the research on that. And I figure by the end of my research, I'm in $350 to $500 on a decent pressure washer. Definitely want gas over electric because there's warranty issues when it comes to electric. You can't use an extension cord. There's all these weird things. So I'm in for that plus $100 for this other thing. And I'm like, man, I've just spent a whole bunch of money on a whole bunch of things around this house, and I am just not into spending another $500 on for one thing. So I do a little bit more research, all right, and I come across and go ahead and you can send me what you want and go ahead and look at your phone and tell me if you've ever seen what I just sent you. All right, go ahead and grab your phone and look at the picture that I sent you and tell me if you've ever seen this device.
No.
Okay. So what that is,
a hose end with like a squeezable container.
So yes. Okay. It is a drain clearing bladder. Okay.
Oh, you put water into it and it like push.
Hold on. So here, now I'm going to send you this other photo. All right. This is what it actually does. All right. So it is a bladder that expands in your drain. So you put it on the end of a garden hose. All right. You put the bladder in the drain, and then you turn the pressure on slowly. Okay. And the bladder fills up and expands in the pipe to create a seal. And then the end of the bladder has a hole in it, and it will blast the water through the bladder, okay, and through the hole on the end. And since it's sealed, it's only going into the drain, all right, so that it can't back up on you. Mm-hmm. So I see this. I've never heard of it. I've never seen it. And I'm like, you know what? I can get 3 of these for $20. I'm giving this a shot because I know that my water flow is not that far off because water's coming through. It's just not enough. So I order them, and it's like they're going to be here the next day. So this is Thursday. Friday afternoon, I'm at work. I'm just about to go home, and my phone starts blowing up. John gets off of work, and he sees them sitting there, and he's like, you know what? I understand how they work. I'm going to try it out. Goes and grabs the middle one, puts it on the hose, puts it in the pipe. All right. And sure enough, if it doesn't blow out all the gunk from the pipe, all right, gets the pipe completely flushed out. All right. And, he's like mad texting me. He's like, oh yeah, it worked. We're good. And I'm like, so I'm with a customer. I don't see any of this stuff till afterwards, and I read it, and I'm like kind of confused by the way he said it. And I call him, and he's like, yeah. He's like, the things were sitting there. I put it on the thing. I went out there. I ran it in the pipe, and he said it looked like a wet bowel movement came out of the drain, and for $20, all right, I got out of a, what could be multiple hundreds of dollars problem just by, looking at alternatives to the, the conventional method. And I found something that, as 25 years of, being a homeowner, that I've never seen. All right. And I couldn't tell you how many times. All right. Clogged drains have been a thing in my life because I've lived in old houses for years. And if I had had this, I couldn't tell you how many times this probably would have totally bailed me out. And, now for $20, I've got 3 different that'll go up to a 6-inch drain. All right, if I ever have a clog, and all I need is a garden hose to put on the end of it. And it's safe enough for your like PVC plastic pipes because the pressure isn't so great, all right, that it could cause a problem.
Well, it looks like the design, it's got some kind of like ribbing in it as well that makes it stretch rather than want to expand outwards. It makes it want to,
Right.
That is amazing. I'm so glad to hear that was a win for you. I'm so glad that I now know that is an option to me, since apparently you can buy 3 of them on Amazon for $20.
I know, dude, it's just completely ridiculous.
I'm just gonna go ahead and put that in the cart as soon as we're done this conversation. Just so it's here, because I am going to need it at some point in the future.
Right, exactly.
100%.
Exactly.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned you started your piece by saying, "Oh, hey, while you were on vacation, I was here dealing with like home issues." Well, unfortunately, while I was on vacation, I was also dealing with home issues via talk and text, as I had to get a new hot water heater installed, and it had to happen while we were gone. So going on at my house while I was gone on vacation was the installation of a hot water heater, a cleaning lady coming. Like, we scheduled a cleaning lady to come while we were gone. We let her go last year because we couldn't freaking afford it. But it had been building up and building up. The kids are out of town. We're going out of town. So like weeks ago, we were like, you know what? Let's just get her lined up to clean the house while we're gone, so we can come home to a nice, fresh, clean house. And then our hot water heater went out and started leaking all over the place, and that had to happen as well. And the only time for it to happen was the week that we were going to be gone. So we had to coordinate all of that and the management of our cat that stays home by herself when we go on vacation. And so all of that was going on. So yes, I too was dealing with house issues while being on vacation. I can't say it was wonderful, but we got it done, so that's fine. What I want to talk about.
Hopefully, no other problems arose, and they just were able to put your hot water tank in and be done.
Yeah, there were no other problems. It was all installed nicely, and we paid a pretty penny for it.
Oh, I'm
Don't
sure.
get me started.
God, I don't even talk
I
about it.
don't know if you're aware or not, but apparently plumbers get paid for the labor portion of their job, like $800 an hour now. So I didn't realize that plumbers make as much money by the hour as lawyers. I hadn't realized that they had caught up, but apparently they have, based on the number of hours it took them to install a hot water heater at my house, which was 3 hours, and we paid like well over $2,000 just for the labor.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous. So let's turn our attention towards happier things, which was my broom wagon for today. I want to give a very rousing endorsement for the city of Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, where my wife and I just spent the last 7 days. It was fantastic. We stayed at shout out to my mom for use of a spare timeshare week. We booked a beautiful hotel right on the coastline, like a timeshare resort kind of thing. All the rooms facing the ocean, beautiful building right on the beach. We utilized the all-inclusive option for one day at the beginning, so we could kind of enjoy the place itself. So we went all inclusive that day when we, ate in the restaurant there, hung out at the swim up pool bar, something I've not really had the chance to do before. Maybe one time before in my life have I done a swim up bar, but that's fun. You ever done one of those?
I mean, I've they've been at places that I've been, but I mean,
It was fun. There was not a lot of people there. It was just super chill, and the bartenders were really nice, and they treat you really well on, if you have the all inclusive wristband or whatever. Um, but yeah, we did some really, really amazing sort of excursions. So our first thing was we went on we had a little thing with this local chef where we met up with him at a market. Um, you see that?
yeah.
And went shopping with him. We had a conversation about like what we wanted to have him cook for us out on the street before we went in. He said, and he gave us a few options. So we chose traditional fish ceviche. Um,
Yes, I was
and
literally just thinking that.
yeah, and then like shrimp enchiladas. We're real cool with seafood if you are. He's like, absolutely, it's a great seafood market. It was an everything market. So we get to walk through the market. We stop by the seafood area. We look over the fish. We actually chose parrotfish. We were going to do red snapper because Mandy and I just love red snapper, but they didn't have any good looking, but they had a really nice looking piece of parrotfish. Um, and so he was like, he got that, and he talked to the shrimp ladies, and so they were like, all right, we'll get all that ready for you while you go shopping for the veggies. Then we go over to the veggie side and pick out all the vegetables we're going to need, and we just have this beautiful conversation about food, blah blah blah. It was so nice, and then boom, back to his place. You see the next picture where he's like making dinner for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we hung out in his place, drank a few beers. Super nice guy. He's also into mountain biking. um,
Interesting.
Very cool. I was hoping to go mountain biking with this guy on Thursday morning. He said he was into it. I was kind of being pushy, but he was like, no, that sounds good. We'll go on Thursday morning. He had an extra bike. I mean, he volunteered that he had an extra bike. So I'm like, okay, well, if you're going to volunteer that you've got an extra bike, it sounds like you kind of might like to go. So we were all going to do that. And then I ran into this guy the next night, actually, at a bar that he had recommended. He showed up there, and he was like, I'm really sorry, but I have to get a medical procedure done tomorrow that I forgot to mention, or that I wasn't thinking about when I said I'd go bike riding with you. He's like, I'm not going to be able to ride on Thursday. And I'm like, no, no harm, no foul. I know you were going to do it if. So anyway, super cool guy though. He also gave us a bunch of bar and restaurant recommendations, and every single one of them we hit up were so clutch. Puerto Vallarta is great because you can, number one, the Ubers there are super cheap. So like where we were staying was like 2 miles to the north of like the main downtown area. There's stuff in between that 2 mile stretch, but like we were at the far end of where most of the stuff started. So every day entailed like a kind of a long-ish ride on the Uber, but that ride was like $4, $5. So super cheap. So it wasn't a big deal to be taking the Uber the whole time. Um, this guy gave us a bunch of great restaurant bar recommendations, and every one of them was absolutely clutch. We got, oh, that's the ceviche. That next picture is the
Yeah.
ceviche that he made for us. Um, Perfect sunset over our room with the palm trees. Um, but yeah, so
That thing looks
next
like a
day,
that thing looks like a poster.
it's ridiculous. So the next day, that's a picture of us. We're on a bike tour. So we did a bike tour the next day with e-bikes. This brings me back to something that you and I had talked
Yeah.
about getting you an e-bike, because these things are heavy duty. And I have never ridden one of those. It was like pedal assist. And we get on this bike outside their little storefront where they do rent their, do their tours out of. And he's like, all right, guys, you can do regular bikes or e-bikes. He's like, I'm going on my e-bike. It's up to you. I'm like, e-bike. And Mandy's like, e-bike. So we get on these things. Never ridden one. We take off down the road. And as soon as I start pedaling, it's like, you can just feel this thing like helping me pedal. And it's like, this is like magic. This is amazing. Like, I barely have to do any work at all. I'm just like keeping up with this guy. This is incredible. So it was such a cool feeling. We go on this amazing like bike ride through the city, and it's like the bike and taco tour. So we stop off and get food all along the way. So first spot is tacos. We get two different like authentic tacos. Next spot, we go for a beer. The next spot we go for another. No, we go for like a elote, that like corn stuff with it. And then the next one after that, we get a margarita at a different local spot. And each one of these spots is like super cool. Like every one of them, super cool, nice people. I'm snapping pictures of all these great cocktails. And then ultimately, we get back to we finish the tour. The guy's super nice as well. I get a bunch of recommendations from him as well, and he knows the guy from the day before. Uh, we finish up, we drop the bikes off, and then he walks us right around the corner to like the most amazing, like tequila mezcal, like amazing bar, right? With a massive selection of tequila. You can see it behind this guy. This bartender was super, super cool, very nice guy. Bunch of amazing drinks. Like we drank so many good cocktails, and like every one of these incredible cocktails that we had was the equivalent of about like $12 to $14. And if you're in DC, every one of those drinks where you're paying 18 to 23 for, no problem. So, they got a bunch of great cocktail bars all around. They're not far away from each other, and you can string together 2 or 3 or 4 different cocktail bars if you want, with like $3 Uber rides in between. Ridiculous. Um, so we did a bunch of great drinking. The next day, you see us sitting in front of a waterfall. We took a boat ride down the coast to like little walk up from the boat to a waterfall, and super chill. You can bring beers on the boat. As soon as we get in the boat, the guy's like, "Oh, if you guys want to use your phone on the Wi-Fi, you can play whatever music we want." So we're playing our music on his like onboard Wi-Fi, and then like you do this hike. It's kind of a tough hike. There's some hills and stuff, but it's really really beautiful. You end up at this waterfall, and they got like this like family has like built this restaurant at this very inaccessible spot, like way up this mountain at this waterfall. Like all kind of people running ATVs and horses up and down from this place. But we get there just early enough that we have the place to ourselves for like about like 20 minutes. And then like once our food arrives, some more people start arriving, and then more and more and more people arrive. And basically you can dive down into that water and go swim up underneath that waterfall right there. So I'm literally sitting there eating these incredible like homemade enchiladas and quesadillas, and drinking a Pacifico, and then I'd like set my beer down, and then I run over and I dive into the thing and swim around, and I come back, drink some more beer, and like people are showing up, people are going down in there and jumping off the sides and stuff. It's unbelievable. I can't believe I'm sitting in front of a waterfall like eating lunch. How is this happening? I mean, it was incredible. The next picture is just like the most high end of the high end cocktails we got all week. I mean, look at that presentation. Is that ridiculous?
Are those little succulents and like
Yeah.
flowers in there?
Yes, exactly. Like it's decorated. It comes
Oh
with its
no,
own.
you know what? That's not a succulent. That is like a bloom of like
Yeah, oh
a
yeah, yeah, yeah.
carnation or something.
Yes, I think you were right. I think you were right about that.
I was
Yeah,
like,
that place.
I was like, is that like a little succulent? Thinking like, oh, you could reuse. I mean, honestly, if you wanted to do that, a succulent would be the way to go because you could
Yeah.
reuse it. Like
Yes, I
those are
like the
eventually going to
succulent idea.
die, but there are little
Right.
tiny. My wife is a plant lady.
Yeah.
Uh, Damn, that's cool as hell. It looks like a bubbling cauldron.
Yeah, it was amazing. Absolutely amazing. This place was wild. I got a picture I'll show you that on the menu, they offer, what was it? It was like, what was it? Nachos or something like that. I don't know. It was like some little snack thing, and you had the choice of like you could have it topped with like some kind of special peppers or something like that, or you could have it topped. No, it was like you could get it with chicken or with grasshoppers. No joke, grasshoppers. We also purchased and brought home. I haven't tried it yet. Chocolates with grasshoppers on top from this like amazing chocolateria. So I'm gonna be trying some grasshopper chocolates.
I mean, there is a subset of this population that says that that is something that will end up being a main
Well
staple
aware.
food
Well
in the
aware.
future. So,
Well aware. Yep. No, you're totally right.
crickets.
So
Cricket, cricket.
so the next day you see that picture there where
Yes,
kind of
that's
like
an
on a little
amazing
lookout.
view over the city.
So that was on our last tour thing that we did, which was a walking tour of like an art tour to see like street art and stuff. Started in this beautiful park in downtown that's like covered in mosaics. And it was funny she mentioned this too. It was a nice little moment for Mandy and I. She's like, the artist that did the 98% of the mosaics that are just covering this entire like one square, like giant square park with benches and all kind of stuff all covered in mosaics. She learned how to do her craft in Philadelphia, and Mandy and I went to Philadelphia on a little weekender like years and years ago. I think before we were even married. Um, and one of the things that we absolutely loved walking around Philadelphia was like all of the mosaics in like the like kind of South Street area of Philly. There's just like mosaics out the ass, and you can read all about the history. And there was like a main guy, and then like he created a whole like organization, like mosaic work took over this part of the town. And this lady, that's where she cut her teeth.
No
And she did
kidding.
this amazing park down there. Yeah, it's absolutely cool. And then so we start there and we walk all around and we're looking at all kinds of street art. And she's just pointing out stuff. And she asked us straight off the bat, she's like, "Are you into the history kind of stuff too?" And we were like, "Yes, we're definitely into the history stuff too." So we got a little history and some art and saw a bunch of cool stuff. And then at the end, she took us to this like lighthouse that's in the arts district, which is the arts district, by the way, is just like it's like up the hillside. So when you're walking through the art district, you're going up and down these like roads that are like this. It's crazy, and like roads that are cocked at an angle like this, and there's all kind of sidewalks and stuff that are so sketchy. This stuff would never be allowed in the United States at all. Like forget about ADA regulations and stuff like that. I mean, there's like sidewalks where there's like a 4 foot drop off like off the side, and it's just a sidewalk, what I mean? Or a 6 foot drop off, or just the dicey little turn thing going out into the street and stuff. It's crazy. But they built this like lighthouse up there, and it's like a little pedestrian thing. It's just like a little kind of mini park, and you can just walk up there and go up a 2-story spiral staircase, and you're up on this little platform on top of this lighthouse. So it's a nice view. But the next oh, and then the last night we hit a couple of really, really good cocktail bars. This
Okay.
place was,
Can I ask you a question about this drink that I'm looking at right now?
yeah.
Is that a piece of bacon laying on top? Okay. All right.
No, that is like that's a piece of really thinly cut and dried out pineapple.
Oh, okay. Okay. Okay.
And like it's caramelized on the end. The brown part is like normally yellow, but it's caramelized.
Okay. All right. Okay. And it's really thinly sliced.
Yes. And then
Okay.
what's the other thing?
The other thing is that rosemary that's lit on fire.
I believe so. Yes. Like he comes to the thing and then he's like, and he hits it with like a
Yeah,
torch
torch. Yeah.
and fires it up.
Is that
And
and is this like a margarita drink?
yeah, something like that. These cocktails were unbelievable. This was definitely
Was
the
it
coolest spot.
was it tequila in there?
Yes, I believe so. We got
Yeah.
almost every cocktail we got was like
Yeah.
mezcal or tequila.
I'm such a tequila fan, man. I would love all that.
Bro, you guys should do this, man. You should cough up one of those weeks of timeshare like we did, and go down to that same spot. It's chill as hell, and rock it out. It's like it's unreal, man. It was like such a good trip. This Let me tell you about this last cocktail bar, and then I'll wrap it up on that last photo because I'm going long here. But you go into this, we go, and it worked out so well for us too. It seemed like the entire week, and this is sort of a through line for our entire relationship. It seems like we're always getting to stuff at the right time, like right before the crowd comes in. It's like you feel like partially you feel really lucky that you beat the crowd, but also you kind of feel like a trendsetter. You're like, yeah, I came, and then everybody else showed up. You know what I mean? And that kept happening to us over and over and over again on this trip. But this place we go in, and there's sort of a back area where there's some people sitting around on like couches and stuff like that. And we're kind of in the front, but we don't really know what the place is like. We go in, there's some open tables in the front by the bar. So we kind of sit down at these high top tables. We're looking back there like, oh, it looks more cool back there. And I'm looking around. I'm like, well, there's one that like needs to be cleared over there, but there's like 2 seats on that spot. And then it looks like there's kind of a little area, a little spot right there. So I grabbed the waiter and I'm like, yeah, can we, because we had sat down at the high top, but I was like, nah, it's cooler over there. Can we go sit over there? And he's like, well, the one over there, he goes, we've got like a 16 top coming in for over there. So you can't do one over there. I'm like, what about over there? And he's like, well, I'm not sure about that. And then he comes back 30 seconds. Yeah, you can go sit over there. Well, there's like these two dudes sitting on the sofa over there, and there's kind of 1.5 sofa spaces on the table next to it, but there's a couple of benches or a couple of stools as well. But the cool place is to be sitting on the sofa, like looking out. But I would have had to snuggle in next to one of these guys to be next to my lady. So I'm like, I'll sit on the stool. But we get over there, we look up, it's open air. We're like we thought it was just like another room, the big room in the back or whatever, but it's like an open air patio, like in between these buildings. So you look up and you're seeing the stars. The weather's perfect. They got a little like low key DJ situation over there, but they're just playing music. There's nobody doing the DJ thing. So it's like almost there's only like 2 other parties in there, and it's really, really cool, or 3 other parties or something. But it's like, seems like this should be vibing a little bit more. And we no sooner have we ordered our drinks, they start trickling in. Like this 20 top that he said was going to be there, like five or six dudes show up, and they're kind of standing around, but there's like a lot of empty space there. I'm like, I thought he said it was gonna be 20 people or whatever. Like, what's going on here? Like, I could be sitting over there because I'm still in the stool. I never ended up sitting on the booth with my lady. But sure enough, 20 minutes later, there's like all kind of people in there. The bar is completely full, and right on cue, the DJ shows up, and all of a sudden, boom, the guys playing music. The volume goes up a little bit. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. And it was just like such an amazing vibe. Then we left there. We hit another spot that was sort of, the drinks were more high end. I mean, that was kind of crazy, but they had like kind of a rough and tumble look to them. The next spot we went to, the last spot, this guy was making these like little like masterpieces in these like thin glasses, and like, I don't know, it was pretty great.
Another level.
Yeah, to go to, and it was Mexico,
Mm-hmm.
So a big recommendation. Apparently it's like the way cooler and way cheaper version of Cozumel or Cancun.
In Cabo, probably.
Yeah, he's like all those spots that are a little bit like more well known or well talked about or whatever. Like, he's like, they're way more expensive. So, yeah. All right. Well, that is all for this week. Join us next time for full coverage of the Women's Tour of Ramadi and our 2025 Vuelta a España preview. Until then, for my brother Justin, I'm Matt Harper. Thanks for listening. We hope you'll join us again soon on another ride beyond the slipstream. Ale.
Beyond the Slipstream is a production of Harperama. Find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Please like and subscribe, smash that button, leave a 5-star review, and most importantly, tell all your friends about us. Thanks for listening. Talk to you next time. Ale!